All right, we ready to go, Darby?
Sure, let's go ahead and kick it off.
Well, welcome everyone to our All Things Teams and Government series. For those of you that are new, welcome, and for those of you that have been on before, welcome back. Today we will be covering specifically Microsoft approvals, and we'll be covering a few different workflows on how you can use approvals across multiple Office 365 applications. But before we kick it off, we'll start with some introductions. Darby, do you want to go first?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning. My name is Darby O'Brien. I am a customer success manager in state and local government, and I typically cover accounts on the East Coast.
And my name is Bridget Ballard. I'm also a customer success manager. I'm based on the West Coast, and with us today, we also have an awesome guest speaker. We have Matt Abatiello on with us. Matt, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. Matt Abatello here. I work with New Jersey and New York state agencies, so hello to anybody from those listening, and looking forward to talking about approvals with you all.
Wonderful. Well, we will kick it off with an overview of the Approvals app. We've shown this a few times, so for those of you that have seen it, it'll be a great refresher. For those of you that have not seen it before, it will very much help as we look across some of the other use cases that we're looking to demo today. Then we'll talk about just a few different ways that you can think about using approvals. And we'll look at first a document approval workflow that Darby will demo, and then we'll look at an environmental emergency reporting demo that Matt has built out. So first off, what is Approvals? Approvals is a recently released app in Microsoft Teams that allows you to streamline your requests and processes within your team or across partners. So approvals data for anyone that's here in IT is stored in Dataverse, and that can be found in the Power Platform Admin Center. And so to show you how this works, I'm quickly going to switch my screen. So just give me 1 second as I get back to the live event here. All right. So we should now see a Teams environment. I'm in my GCC demo environment, and so what we're going to take a look at now quickly is just how you can do a basic approval. So how would you find approvals within Teams? Approvals can be found on your 3 ellipses on the left-hand side. I currently have it pinned, but if you don't see it pinned or you don't have it pinned, you can simply click the 3 ellipses and search for it there. As we click on the approvals icon, you'll see requests that have been made. So as the mod administrator, let's say that I want to go ask my boss for time off. I simply start a new approval. I'll do time off. I know I want to send it to Joanna. And I can say something like, I need vacation on Monday. What's cool about approvals too is that you can add attachments from your OneDrive or from your computer. So let's say that there was something that I wanted to make sure that I attached to this. I can add that and make sure that Joanna sees it attached with my approvals request. This request then gets sent over to Joanna, and Joanna is able to approve or deny this request for me. You'll see that I have one that has been previously approved. So as I click into this, we can see just a overview of what has been approved, letting me know that mod administrator was the one that requested it and that Joanna was the one that was able to approve it. And then my colleagues, Darby and Matt, will show a little bit more about how you actually do approve something in their workflows. All right, so going to switch screens again, just quickly back into the PowerPoint. And we'll cover just a few more things here before we hand it over to Darby. So how can you use approval workflows when you're thinking about how to set this up? What we just showed you was the very, very basic way to start using approvals. Highly recommend you just getting in there and playing around with what's possible with starting from scratch just from the approvals app. What we're going to be showing you is ways that you can automate this. So as you watch Darby and Matt, you can be thinking of ways that you might already have an approval workflow that you can automate. Examples are a document approval process. If you have something where you need to submit for project approval, so if you're trying to get budget, or maybe you want a project manager assigned to something. Training requests is another great one. I know a lot of you have internal training request systems, and a lot of you use our Microsoft Store trainers. So this might be a great way to send out to your business units a way for them to request training. Time off is a very popular one. Request to join a Teams or a project. I think that's a great one too. If you don't have that already in place or have a mechanism to do that, approvals could be a really easy way to spin that up. And then lastly, we just generally listed return to work solutions. So if you're requesting to come back into the office, requesting for a desk, there's many ways that we can build that out in approvals. Darby, Matt, anything else to add there?
I think you covered it.
Yeah, that's a good list. Endless possibilities.
Awesome. Okay, so before I hand it over to Darby, I want to just set the stage for what you're going to be seeing within these two solutions. So as we mentioned, approvals lives inside of Teams, but it can connect to many different platforms across Office 365 and our Power Platform environment. So as we go through this, you're going to be seeing how Power Automate can link approvals across forms, across Power Apps, and across SharePoint. So I list these icons here because as we switch through these, you'll be seeing a lot of these within the demos. But just keep in mind that behind everything, Power Automate is kind of making all of this run and linking everything up to approvals. We will post this deck. We listed some additional approvals resources here, so we'll be sure to share this out with you after. I won't go ahead and click into these now. All right, so without further ado, I will turn it over to Darby to show a document approval workflow.
Awesome. Thanks, Bridget. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and let's take a look. All right, let me know when you can see my screen, okay?
We can see it.
Awesome. So like Bridget said, approvals when used as a standalone application, it's actually very simple, right? It's a matter of sending a request and getting a response. There's no automatic automation, no bells and whistles, just send and receive, approve or deny. And what we want to show you today is how this tool comes to life when you connect it with the other tools in the Microsoft suite, tools that most of you have access to right now. So the first example I'm going to show you is a document approval process. So before we jump in, we'll just kind of talk about the tools I'm going to use to achieve this. We are using the Approvals app in Microsoft Teams, so that's Approvals in Teams. It is connecting to a SharePoint site within the team. And I'm also using Power Automate to kind of pull the strings of this. And I also set it up to also send an email at the end. So that is Approvals, Teams, SharePoint, Power Automate, and Outlook. The bulk of this solution was built in Power Automate. That's where I'm calling all of these other tools to perform those tasks. It's kind of like the puppeteer in the project. So let's kind of talk about what we created. So I needed a document approval process. So when my team uploads a document to this pre-approved channel that I specifically created for this example, it will automatically kick off an approval process for the document to be reviewed. And then once it has been approved, then it will automatically be moved into this approved channel folder. And if it is rejected, it will stay in pre-approved and give that person that submitted it some feedback so they can adjust the file and then run the process again. So quickly, let's take a look at the flow that I built in Power Automate to achieve this. Kind of how we talked. I'm not going to spend too much time on the technical details today. Let's just discuss what we're asking it to do at a high level. And then if you would like to build out this demo, we can either work on it together in the office hours, or I could send you an actual demo on how to do this. So here is the flow that I have built. So what I'm saying here is when a document is added to the pre-approved channel, kick off an approval process in Teams, assign it to my admin so they can approve or reject, and give them a link to that document. And then if they say yes, then send that person an email and move the file to the approved folder. And if they say no, send them an email that lets them know it has been rejected with the feedback. So just as simple as that, add it, kick off the approval process. If yes, then this. If no, then this. That's all I'm asking it to do. So let's go ahead and test it and kick off the process. So I'm going to go ahead and select test here, and we'll manually start this. So I'm going to head back into my Teams channel here and upload a document to the pre-approved folder. This is going to kick off the flow that we just looked at. So let me find a document here. And pull it into pre-approved. Just by uploading that, it should kick off the approval process. I saw a notification come in here through Teams. If I check the flow here, I can see it went ahead and we added it. It kicked off the approval process, which we're now waiting for a response. We're waiting for a approval or reject. I can either approve or reject as the approver here within Teams. So I saw a notification come in. Let's take a look at it. So I saw it come in, something's been added to my pre-approved folder. I can take a look at the document. I can see who sent it. In this case, it is me sending it to myself, but in other cases, you would likely be sending it to someone else or maybe the owner of the team site. I could click on this link to view that document, make sure that it all looks okay. And then when I'm all done, I could either reject or approve. Before I do that, let me show you what it looks like here in email. This is the notification that comes in through Outlook, so I could approve or reject it from here as well. For the sake of keeping it in Teams, let's just approve it from here. I'll go ahead and hit approve. And just like that, I received a final notification that my document has been approved by the administrator. So I can head back into the team. And if this ran successfully, it should have been moved to the approved folder here. And there we see it. Awesome. So just as simple as that, we could move a document from a pre-approved channel to an approved channel by linking it up to approvals in Power Automate. Super simple flow process. And I'm happy to share that demo with you and discuss this in even more detail next week or in 2 weeks in our office hours. But otherwise, that is the bulk of the solution. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Matt, who's going to show you a more intermediate example of how you can make these approvals work for you.
Hey, Darby, just really quickly, we do have some great questions. They should only take just a few moments on this one. I want to make sure that we get them answered just as we're looking at this. For how you set this up, there's a question on, do you have to be an owner of the team or can any member go in and create this workflow?
I don't believe you need to be the owner of this team. As long as you have the ability to create these channels here, you could connect a flow to them.
Awesome. And then there's a question on if the approval lives within the team or a group or at the organizational level. So I think this one is really the workflow is kicked off within a Teams or a channel, but all the approvals kind of live inside of that approvals application, and that data is stored within Dataverse and that can be managed in the Power Platform Admin Center.
Yeah, so if you want to see like an all up list of your approvals, we can see I've done this one quite a few times, but we can see them all come in through the main approvals application if you need to kind of look back on the sent and received requests. Any other questions?
That is all. The rest of them I think we can answer in the chat.
All right, I am going to go ahead and stop sharing and hand it over to Matt.
Okay, thanks, Darby. Let me know when you can see an emergencies channel in my environmental protection team.
I can see it. Okay,
great. Okay, so building on a little bit from the approval that we just looked at, we're going to take the perspective of a workflow kind of in stages, doing an incident management. The example we have today is an environmental protection team is tracking environmental emergencies that are reported. So incidents like oil spills or hazardous substances. So that's what we're going to walk through. The workflow is based on having notifications and approvals, working around a list of emergencies. So I'm going to start, there's a SharePoint list of emergencies. You can see that there are a number of them in different statuses. And the order that we're going to track these through is going from new, then assigning a team to work to resolution. Ultimately, they, in this example, produce a report. So it goes into a pending report status. That's where the approval is going to kick in. So we'll look at that. And then finally, if it's approved, the incident will be resolved. And the end will look something like this, where we have the spill approved, and we even will store the approver, the approval date, the comments of the approval. So I just wanted to point that out because we're focused on approvals today. There's a number of ways that the incidents can be reported. One of the really nice things about these solutions, these collaborative solutions in teams, is if we store the data in SharePoint, we can, with Power Automate, load the data from many different places. So whatever is best for the organization. So maybe filling out the report through a form is the way to go. So one example is creating new ones by reporting them through a form. Certainly, if your users are familiar with SharePoint and work with that a lot, then it can simply be using the SharePoint list, and we can make a new item here as well. And so we could enter the data for a new one there. In this example, our environmental protection team has made it a little bit easier, especially to report them initially from a mobile form factor. So I don't know if you're familiar, but with SharePoint lists, you're able to, with just a couple clicks, create a simple Power App based on a list. So just to quickly show you how the team did that, they went to Integrate Power Apps and create an app. And the result, when posted to the team, the Power App in the mobile form factor is generated here. So let's go ahead and create the first one. So we're going to say we have an oil spill, unfortunately. And I realized after I started building these demos, seeing the things in the news, it really is hard to see when you're doing this. So oil spill for today, we're going to say it occurred at Lakeside Beach, the manufacturing plant. So that'll be Beach Street and Main Ave. And we'll assign a team lead later. I'm going to use a severity of major or minor. I guess I would say realistically all oil spills are a major event, but we want to use this to show how the flow knows to do something special based on the severity. This is going to be a new status. It's our first step in the workflow, and we'll fill out impact amount and incident report later. So the new one gets created. Because the Power App is directly connected to the SharePoint list, it will create the new one. So we have our record, our Lakeside Beach manufacturing oil spill incident. It's new. What's really nice about this is you have the collaboration features as well. So we are going to move to the next step of assigning a team lead, but keep in mind you have all the collaboration and chat and everything right there built within it for teams. Joanna, this one is for you. And so you can even see I have Joanna in another browser over here. You can even see that that mention came right in. And so she can reply, confirmed, they're working on it right away. So what they can do is they can look at this item. Remember, it's just running in the SharePoint list. And so let's see, what would the team lead do? They would change the status to now a team is assigned. And we can say Joanna is the team lead. And as time goes on, they may be able to add some photos, or they may add some information about the impact, the financial prediction. So we'll just put in some dollars there. And so we're in the second stage now, the team assigned. The other thing that might be interesting for the team leads is they may not be interested in all of them. And so you can have a view of my incidents and just show the ones that you're the team lead for. So here, Joanna is seeing that she is the lead for the Lakeside Beach manufacturing oil spill. Okay, now let's talk about the notifications that have occurred since we've reported this. In my environmental protection team, let's go back to this one. Over on the left-hand side, you'll see that we have a number of channels. And so maybe the people that watch for oil spills just watch this one channel, and you see they've been notified that there's an oil spill reported at Lakeside Beach in the manufacturing. The others for chemical spills or hazardous substances, they may just watch those channels. But remember that we also had called it a major severity event. And so I'm going to point out something here that for all the major ones, the flow's been instructed to also post to the high level emergencies channel. That's one that everybody watches for major events. And so here they can see a new major oil spill. A new major oil spill has been reported and a team will be assigned. Maybe they have some rule where they do it within a certain amount of time, hopefully right away, right? And they can, of course, go in and also see that information. Okay, let's go back from Joanna's perspective. She is the lead, so we're going to take a look here. You'll notice that when a team is assigned, now we have an incident report. And what the flow did there in that status was create the template for the report. So they always have a templated report that they do to resolve these. So once they have the impact amount, they write up the report. They can then have that as part of the approval. And so that's what we're going to do. We'll look at next. We're going to talk about the approvals. The approval process will actually engage when the status is changed to pending report. And remember that this link for the report could be edited, worked on collaboratively in Teams and Word, just like we would probably do in Teams, or we could open it up in the Word document itself. So here's an example of why it was a template that was created. Let me go back over here now and talk about the approvals that have kicked in. So once the pending report status has been established, we will start looking at some approvals. So here's some examples that we have already done. This one came in. This one was the one that was sent in a little bit earlier. So following the same format that we saw in the previous presentations, just a reminder, you can control the title of that. In this example, the flow has used the actual title of the event. We have the link to the item to look at for approval, and we will be able to report. Looks good, so it's approved. Incident resolved, and that approval will take care of that. One thing I want to point out about these, and you'll notice, by the way, we'll come back to that one, the new one has just come in as well. So here's the Lakeside Beach one that we set the pending status a few minutes ago, pending report status. So we'll approve that one as well. Take a look at the approvals app. One thing that commonly is asked is how can I, if I just want to know what's requested of me, kind of like what's my work list, there's a nice filtering feature in there as well. And so we can just filter on and see the requested ones. These are the ones that I need to work and approve. You'll notice the notification has also come in. And we get a report that it's been approved here. The approvals do allow for a setting where you don't have the notification. Maybe there's so many of them or something they don't want, but in this example, we've let them stay on. Let's go back over to our SharePoint list and look at a couple more things. So we'll go down to our ones that have been recently approved and take a look at those. So you'll notice that when it was sent out, once we did the approval, the flow listening for that has marked it as resolved. It has recorded who the approver is, the approval date, and the account and the comments. So that incident is now resolved. That's a full round trip from new, team assigned, pending report to resolved. Various notifications took place. The approvals took place. The document generation took place. So I say those things because these are common categories. So let me, my team has some documentation here where they've kind of built a diagram to kind of show all the different components that are involved here. Let me make that a little bit bigger so you can see it. And these collaborative apps tend to follow this pattern right here. So some kind of data is submitted or entered. Remember, I said that we could do it through form, we could do it through SharePoint, we could do it through the Power App, but once it's submitted, it goes to some centralized repository. And then what we find is there's at least 4 common categories of things that are done on that data. And that's represented by the boxes in this diagram around the centerpiece. So the notifications we saw, we used message posts earlier in Darby's example, we saw emails as well. So commonly there's notifications in these collaborative apps. The next thing is approvals. We did a simple approval where once it was based on the pending report or where it wasn't a folder, we kicked off approvals. In the office hours in the future, we'll talk about some other more dynamic ways for pools of approvers and things like that. We also find that there's collaboration involved in these collaborative apps. I guess that goes without saying, but the document generation is an example, the posting notifications to channels, and then that chat that ensued about that assigning over to Joanna. And then finally, we also see often the need for reporting and analytics. And I didn't show that in my environmental one, but I do want to show that if we have a minute. Over here, we have a similar process for the project management office in the organization. They are putting in project requests through forms, and they're storing that in a SharePoint list as well, and they have a workflow around that. But what they've done is they've gone one step further, and they've taken that SharePoint data, that centralized repository of data, and then they've pushed that into a Power BI data set, and now they're able to have a dashboard within their team as well. So they can do visualizations, in this example, a pie chart. They can show tabular reporting as well in the dashboard. So all that's being done because that data is being stored in that centralized location. So that is the Environmental Emergencies app. It's an example of a collaborative app with workflow, with notifications, approvals, collaboration, and then we added the PMO to show the reporting and analysis aspect of it. Are there any questions in the chat, Darby or Bridget?
I think we got to most of them that we answered directly, but there were lots of great questions, and I hope this makes everyone want to come to office hours and bring us your use cases and learn a little bit more how we did this. We know it's a lot to cover in 30 minutes, so just know that we do have an hour set aside on 10/22, on Friday 10/22, to be able to go over this in a lot more detail. Anything else to add, Matt or Darby, before we close it out?
I just really appreciate you all joining and listening. I hope this was helpful. And like Bridget said, I hope this just kind of helped get the wheels turning on ways that you could be using approvals today. If you do have ideas on how you'd like to use it, but you feel a little bit nervous about the Power Automate piece or some of the other technology, please reach out to your account team, reach out to your CSM. we will help you get these built and get you the resources that you need.
All right, well, we will close it out on time. Actually, I did just see a question come in for office hours, so we will forward out for anyone that received this, we will forward out the office hours invite, but just so everyone is aware, the same link that you used to join today, just the All Things Teams and Government link, will be the same exact link you can join to use the office hours. We make sure to change that link to specifically the meeting for that date. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, it looks like there's a lot of questions about getting the link for the 1022 event. So Darby and I will make sure to send out another email. But just a reminder, you can use the same link that you joined for the 1022 event. All right, well, thank you all so much. And with that, we'll go ahead and close it out. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Matt.
Have a great weekend.